Hello, welcome to Phantom Homicide, the West Mesa murders, unearthing the bone collector's lair.
That name, the bone collector. It sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels you just something methodical almost,
Oh,
clinical.
it absolutely does, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. This is going to be an extensive, really chilling exploration of one of New Mexico's most disturbing unsolved cases.
Truly haunting.
We're talking about the discovery of the remains of 11 women and one unborn child, all found buried systematically in this vast, kind of empty desert landscape on Albuquerque's West Mesa.
Yeah.
So our goal here is to piece together that horrifying timeline, really analyze the victim profile because it's incredibly specific, and dissect every scrap of evidence left behind in what's now, unbelievably, a 16-year-old mystery.
16 years.
Uh-huh.
And you have to start by just grasping the sheer scale of it. 11 confirmed victims, plus that unborn child. All vanished between 2001 and 2005. This wasn't some sudden outburst. This was a consistent, dedicated effort over 4 years by someone, or maybe even someone's, who earned that awful name, the bone collector.
That consistency is the first thing that really hits you, analytically speaking. A sustained campaign of violence, hiding in plain sight for years.
Yeah.
It's unsettling.
And the location itself, the West Mesa.
Yeah.
It sounds remote, and parts of it are, but these burials happened in an arroyo bank, basically a dry creek bed that was technically inside Albuquerque city limits.
So not quite out in the middle of nowhere, but secluded enough.
Exactly. Secluded enough for someone to use it repeatedly as a dumping ground for 4 years without anyone noticing. That time frame, 2001 to 2005, is critical.
And we know they used it repeatedly because of, well, technology helped later, didn't it? The satellite images.
That's right. A forensic gift, really. Satellite photos taken between 2003 and 2005, they clearly show tire tracks and patches of disturbed earth, right in the exact spot where the graves were later found. It wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a path someone drove regularly, someone who knew the area, felt comfortable there, felt untouchable.
Which makes the timeline even more important.
Yeah.
The last burial, they think, was sometime in 2005, because by 2006, the city was creeping closer. Residential development started moving in on that area. The killer's window, their private space, was closing.
But then fate, or whatever you want to call it, intervened in this really bizarre, almost unbelievable way if that construction had just gone ahead as planned.
Those graves might have been paved over, or just completely destroyed by heavy machinery.
Exactly. We might never have known. The truth could literally be buried under houses right now.
Instead, you get the 2008 housing crash. The whole U.S. economy tanks, and construction on that specific site just stops, dead in its tracks, before a single house was built.
It's incredible, isn't it? And then the developers' actions to fix a different problem actually brought the whole thing to light. People in the nearby houses started complaining about flooding.
Flooding? Why?
Because the developer, when they were grading the land initially, had basically buried the natural arroyo, the drainage path.
Oh, okay, so they blocked the water flow.
Right. So to fix the flooding, the developer builds a retaining wall and digs a retention pond. And where do they do this? Right near the burial site?
Unbelievable. So they inadvertently disturbed the ground just enough.
Just enough to expose bones that had been preserved, ironically, by the dry New Mexico air for years.
Which leads us straight to February 2nd, 2009, the moment everything changed. And it starts with something so ordinary.
A woman walking her dog, Ruka. It was the dog Ruka who actually found the first bone, a human femur.
Just lying on the surface.
Apparently so. The woman did the right thing, reported it immediately to APD, the Albuquerque police. And that single call, that one bone, it kicked off this massive month-long excavation.
A month, and what they found, it must have been horrifying, unfolding day by day.
Catastrophic is the word. What started with one bone ended with the remains of 11 women and girls, plus that unborn child, all pulled from these disturbingly shallow graves.
Shallow graves? That suggests haste, maybe? Or just confidence they wouldn't be found?
Could be both. But it confirmed what they feared. A serial killer, operating systematically for years, using the city's edge as his own private cemetery.
And as the forensic teams started the heartbreaking work of identification, that pattern emerged. It wasn't random. There was a common thread, a very specific vulnerability the killer seemed to be targeting.
Yeah, and we really need to look closely at this profile. The ages are chilling, from just 15 years old up to 32.
15?
Most were Hispanic women, and nearly all shared what police call high-risk characteristics, involvement in street-level sex work, drug activity.
Which often means they're more transient, maybe less connected to stable support system.
Exactly. Their disappearances might not raise alarms immediately, They're tragically marginalized, operating in a world where danger is constant. It suggests the killer knew this world, knew where to find these victims.
It's crucial we name them. To remember, they were individuals, not just statistics. They vanished quickly, mostly between 2003 and 2004. Monica Diana Candelaria, she was 22, disappeared May 2003.
Just a month later, Victoria Ann Chavez, 26, went missing, June 2003.
And the double tragedy. Michelle Gina Valdez, 22. She vanished in September 2004, and she was 4 months pregnant.
4 months pregnant. And there's Veronica Romero, 28. She disappeared on Valentine's Day 2004. Some reports mention she might have been pregnant too. The level of cruelty is just staggering.
Yeah.
An absolute disregard for life.
And then there's Selania Tareen Edwards. Her case adds another layer. She was the youngest, only 15.
50.
And she was the only African-American victim identified and the only one confirmed to be from out of state, a runaway from Lawton, Oklahoma.
Identifying her must have been tough.
It involved sketches, dental records, meticulous work. But the fact that the killer targeted a runaway, someone from another state, it shows reach, doesn't it? An understanding of where the most vulnerable, maybe the least traceable individuals might be found.
And the horror touches families directly. We have cousins, Jamie Caterina Barella, also just 15, and Evelyn Jesus Maria Salazar, 27. They vanished on the exact same day, March 26, 2004.
The same day. Did they disappear together, or was it coincidence?
We don't know for sure, but it suggests the killer might have known their circle, maybe encountered them together, or maybe they frequented the same dangerous places.
The other identified victims, Doreen Marquez, Virginia Cloven, Julie Cine Nieto, Cinnamon Elks, 11 lives confirmed lost.
But the shadow of this case, it stretches even further, doesn't it? Because before the bodies were even found in 2009, one detective was already connecting dots.
Right, Detective Ida Lopez. She had this internal list, apparently, of missing women in Albuquerque, women who fit that same profile involved in sex work, drugs, missing between 2001 and 2006.
Her instincts were tragically spot on. When the remains were found, 10 women from her list were among them.
10?
But here's the truly terrifying part. 9 other women from that original list, women with identical backgrounds who disappeared in that same time frame.
Oh.
They remain missing.
Still missing today.
Still missing. It raises this awful possibility. Was the victim count higher? Did the bone collector just change tactics or locations after 2005 when development started closing in?
We have to name them too. Their families are still waiting. Darlene Marie Trujillo, Martha Jo Lucher, Anna Love Vigil, Felipa Victoria Gonzalez, Nina Brenda Heron, Jillian Elizabeth Henderson Ortiz, Chantel Monique Waits, Leah Rochelle Peebles, and Vanessa Reed.
All sharing that same vulnerability, vanished within the killer's active years. The thought that there could be more victims out there? It's a heavy burden for investigators.
Okay, so you have this pattern, this specific victim type. The initial thought is obviously a lone serial killer, right? Consistent method, target preference, long time frame.
That's the classic profile, yes.
Yeah.
But the sheer number of victims, 11 plus, and the fact they were so transient, it quickly made investigators wonder, was this really just one person acting alone?
Or could it be something bigger, more organized?
Exactly. The investigation started to look beyond just a solitary monster. They began seriously considering the possibility of a larger criminal network, specifically human trafficking.
That takes this whole thing to another level, from a local nightmare to potentially an international operation.
That's the core of the trafficking ring hypothesis. The APD and even the FBI started looking into connections to possibly a sophisticated sex trafficking ring, maybe based out of Texas, using Albuquerque as a key point.
A hub or a pass-through.
Could be either. And what's really interesting or disturbing is how this hypothesized ring might have operated. Sources suggest they targeted vulnerable people during big regular events.
Like what kind of events?
Well, the New Mexico State Fair was mentioned specifically. Times when there's a lot of people coming and going, lots of transient traffic, both potential victims and customers. Makes it easier to move people around without drawing attention.
That's chillingly strategic, exploiting the cover of crowds.
And the suspected reach wasn't just local. The theory involves other major cities. Las Vegas, El Paso, Killeen in Texas, even Denver. A whole network across the Southwest and West.
So if the bone collector was part of that, the victims might have been seen as disposable, maybe killed for trying to escape or because they knew too much?
That's one line of thinking, yes. Their death could have been about silencing them, protecting the larger operation. It makes the motive much more complex than just individual predation.
And there was that international tip, too, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. An anonymous tip came in, linking the murders to a suspect with ties to El Salvador, which again feeds into that idea of a cross-border network, maybe involving people who are easier to control or disappear because of their status.
Okay, now we have to address the theory that really pushes the boundaries. The one that connects these murders, however tenuously, to Jeffrey Epstein. We need to be clear, this is highly speculative. Comes from, outside the official investigation, mostly.
Absolutely. We're reporting what sources have theorized, not confirming it. Okay. But the circumstantial details, all the why it gets discussed.
The main points are proximity and profile, right? Epstein's Zorro Ranch. It wasn't next door, but in the grand scheme of New Mexico's vastness, it was relatively nearby.
Relatively nearby, yes. And then you look at the victims, vulnerable women involved in the sex trade. That unfortunately mirrors the profile of individuals Epstein and his network were known to target globally.
So the extreme end of this theory is, could these women found on the West Mesa have been somehow connected to Epstein's trafficking ring, maybe victims of it, or killed to cover up activities linked to the ranch back in that 2001-2005 timeframe?
That's the speculation. Again, police have never announced any official link, but having such a high-profile, globally connected trafficker operating relatively close by during the exact years these women disappeared, it adds this really dark, almost conspiratorial layer that investigators couldn't just ignore, even if it remains unproven. It forces you to think about how high up this might go.
So facing these possibilities, a local killer, or this sprawling trafficking network, the police response had to be significant.
Absolutely. APD set up the dedicated 118th Street Task Force, purely focused on this case. And they put up a huge reward, up to $100,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction.
And the public responded.
Massively. Over 1,500 tips have come in since 2009, which is great for engagement, but also it's a mountain of information to sift through.
A needle in a haystack situation.
Could be. And amidst all that data, one of the strangest moves was in December 2010 when police released those photographs.
Oh, yeah, that was unsettling. Photos of other women.
6 photos showing 7 different women. Police were cagey about where they came from, just said they were recovered during the investigation. But the chilling part was some of these women looked like they might be unconscious, or maybe worse, and many resembled the victims already found.
The implication being the killer took pictures, documented his victims.
That's the terrifying thought, isn't it? A killer who keeps trophies, archives their crimes. It speaks to a certain kind of pathology.
But then that got complicated fast, didn't it? With the 8th photo.
Yeah, the very next day they released an 8th picture. But almost immediately, family came forward, identified the woman, and confirmed she died of natural causes years before. Nothing to do with the case.
Ouch. That must have hurt credibility.
It certainly raised questions about the other photos, but police did follow up later, saying they'd actually identified 2 other women from those initial photos who were alive. They believe these women might have crucial information about the killer. Whether they successfully found and interviewed them, well, details are scarce.
Okay, let's talk suspects. The 2 main names that kept surfacing. Lorenzo Montoya and Joseph Blee. Montoya seems like a really strong possibility, especially with the timing.
Extremely strong. Montoya lived less than 3 miles from the burial site. Police later found that dirt trails literally connected his trailer park directly to the gravesite area back in 2006.
Wow, direct access.
And his background. He was a pressman, but he had a history. Arrested twice before for violent attacks on sex workers. He threatened his own girlfriend, apparently talked about killing her and burying her in lime.
And the coworkers, they heard him talking about it.
Chillingly specific. After the bodies were found, coworkers came forward saying they'd heard Montoya talk about killing women and burying them out on the West Mesa like it wasn't a big deal.
Just casually mentioning it.
Apparently so. And then you have the timeline. December 2006. Montoya strangles a 19-year-old sex worker, Sherika Hill, in his trailer.
Right.
He's caught trying to put her body in the trunk of his car. Her boyfriend shoots and kills him in the process.
So he died in the act of disposing of a body.
Exactly. And police were quoted saying the way Hill was killed, the brutality, it felt practiced too brutal for a first time, they said. And the biggest point, after Montoya died in December 2006, the West Mesa killing stopped. Completely.
That's pretty compelling circumstantial evidence.
Very. But the search of his home after his death yielded perhaps the darkest clue of all. That home recording.
The video camera footage, they only released parts of it, right?
Right, only a section. But reports say it shows Montoya having sex with an unidentified woman. And investigators strongly suspect she might have already been dead during the filming.
Oh my God.
Then the video goes dark, focuses on a wall, a bed, but the audio continues. And you can clearly hear sounds suggesting someone preparing a body, tearing duct tape off a roll, the crinkle of opening a large garbage bag.
So the sounds of him getting ready to transport and bury someone?
That's the chilling implication, the routine, the mechanics of disposal. Police released screenshots of that unidentified woman, hoping someone would recognize her, potentially linking Montoya directly to one of the West Mesa victims. But she remains unidentified.
Still, a very strong case against Montoya. But he couldn't account for the earlier victims, necessarily, the ones from 2001, 2003.
That's the gap. Which is why, starting around 2014, investigators really ramped up their focus on a second man, Joseph Blee.
Blue had a history too, didn't he? Way back.
A long and disturbing history. He was known as the mid-school rapist back in the 80s. Attacked young teenage girls near McKinley Middle School. He kind of fell off the radar until 2010, when old DNA from one of those 80s rape kits was finally tested with modern tech, and it matched him.
So that brought him back onto law enforcement's radar in a big way.
Huge way. And then they found a connection to the type of victims found on the West Mesa. Police DNA was found on the waistband and belt of a different sex worker, one found dead on Central Avenue, which is, a notorious area for sex work in Albuquerque.
So he was definitely interacting with and likely preying on women in that same vulnerable group.
Exactly. But the potential link to the actual burial site is where it gets really specific and kind of strange. A piece of physical evidence found near the bodies, a plastic tree tag, like from a nursery.
A nursery tag. How does that connect to Blee?
Investigators traced that specific tag back to a local nursery that Blee was known to frequent. They apparently went through tons of records, trying to definitively link him to buying that specific type of plant or tag around the right time.
Did they find a direct link or a receipt or something?
No, they never made that concrete connection, but the fact that this unique piece of trash from a place he knew turned up right there at the gravesite, it's highly suspicious, even if it's circumstantial. It connects him geographically alongside the DNA connecting him to the victim profile.
And there's testimony against him, too, from prison.
Yes. A cellmate claimed Blee told him he'd hired some of the West Mesa victims and apparently referred to them dismissively, calling them trashy.
Grim.
And when police searched Blee's home, they found women's underwear and jewelry that didn't belong to his wife or daughter. Things he couldn't explain. Possible trophies.
So Blee is convicted for the old rape cases.
Yes, he got 36 years in 2015 for the mid-school rapes, so he's off the streets. But crucially, never charged in connection with the West Mesa murders themselves.
So two very strong persons of interest, Montoya and Blee, but neither definitively proven as the bone collector. Did they look at anyone else seriously?
They did clear several other men over the years. A pimp named Fred Reynolds, who knew one victim, and supposedly had photos of missing sex workers, but he died naturally in early 2009.
Okay.
A photographer, Ron Irwin, had his property searched, thousands of photos taken, but he was eventually cleared. And even Scott Lee Kimball, a convicted serial killer from Colorado, confirmed he was looked at, but denied any involvement. So the net was cast wide, but it always seemed to circle back to Montoya and Blee.
Which brings us to today, 2025. 16 years since that horrifying discovery. And the case was started. It's still cold, officially unsolved.
Unsolved. No one has ever been formally named or charged for the murders of those 11 women and the unborn child. The bone collector, whoever he was, or maybe still is, remains a phantom.
And there are real challenges now just because of the time that's passed, right? Legal hurdles.
Yeah, investigators have talked about that. Current New Mexico state law apparently presents some obstacles. It makes it difficult to use certain modern forensic techniques on older evidence, especially things like advanced DNA analysis.
Like familial DNA searching. Comparing crime scene DNA to relatives in a database.
That's often a key issue in cold cases like this. State laws vary, and sometimes they restrict using those methods which have cracked so many other decades-old cases elsewhere. It's a major tool they might not have full access to.
But there's hope on that front. They're trying to change the laws.
Yes, Albuquerque police have been actively pushing for new legislation, supporting DNA bills specifically designed to help investigations like West Mesa and other cold cases in the state, trying to update the rules to allow the task force to use every available modern tool on that 16-year-old evidence.
That feels crucial, because the impact on Albuquerque, it must still be felt today.
Oh, profoundly. This case forced a really painful look at the violence happening against the city's most vulnerable people, people who were often ignored. It definitely raised awareness, put a much bigger focus on missing persons cases, especially from marginalized communities, and spurred a lot of community organizing around victim advocacy. It changed things.
And the police haven't given up. The task force is still active.
Absolutely. They emphasize that. They're still working those 1,500-plus tips, constantly reviewing the files, hoping new technology might unlock something. And that $100,000 reward is still out there, a constant reminder. This isn't over. Someone knows something.
Okay, so to wrap up our deep dive today, we've traced the shocking discovery in the desert, examined that tragically consistent victim profile, and explored the main lines of suspicion of Simon, Lorenzo Montoya, the violent local whose death coincided with the end of the killings. Joseph Blee, linked by DNA, location, and disturbing testimony, and that wider, darker possibility of an organized sex trafficking ring. It's a case that just hangs over the city, a stark reminder of hidden violence.
And maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. The very thing that made these women vulnerable targets their transient lives, their connections within a specific, often hidden community. That network might also hold the key. Someone saw something. Someone heard something. The silence, whether from fear or lack of realization, continues to protect the killer. What tiny detail, shared between friends or maybe even noted by a client, about who these women were meeting, where they were going? What detail holds the answer to finally identifying the bone collector? 16 years on, that question still needs an answer.
Okay, so hope you liked our today's discussion. For more such discussions, subscribe to our channel, Phantom Homicide.